Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside one of my co-hosts, Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
I'm chilling, bro. We are on week 3 of NBA action now?
Game 10. We are like 1/8 through
What
the
the
season. And
heck?
honestly, Jay, I'm feeling great right now. The first 3-0 of the Hit Your Free Throws Daily NBA Picks Challenge, I finally hit it. Am I still down 8 games? Probably. But I got the first 3-0 of the series, man. And we have an awesome episode lined up for you guys today. We're going to be talking about some teams that haven't really got much love on the pod. We're going to show them some love, whether we think the start of the season is for real or a facade. We're going to be talking about, our moments of the week. And, of course, we're going to end the episode with a little bit of a quiz and a draft as well. But before we get into this episode, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our individual socials at TV on Basketball, at the Knockdown J, as well as the Routine Jumper. It can be found in the descriptions down below. And in terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, remember to follow us on TikTok and Instagram for the best, and I mean the best daily NBA content. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, and also hit the notification bell, hit the like button. That'd be really appreciated. And if you want to listen to us on any of the podcast networks, Spotify and Apple, remember to leave your review, subscribe, all that good stuff. We really do appreciate all of you guys' support. Jay, you ready to talk some NBA basketball today?
Yeah, bro. I'm hyped. We got some teams to disrespect, and we got some teams to give some love to. Let's see who falls into what category.
Yes, and we're gonna be calling this segment For Real or Facade, because we have 6 teams here that we want to talk about, and some of them have had very good starts to the season, and some not as much. So we're gonna see if we think the start of the season is for real, whether we think they're gonna be as good as advertised right now, or we think, you know what, this is just a slow start to the season, they're gonna pick it up real soon, and we're gonna think it's a facade. And the perfect team to start this off with, man, the Los Angeles Clippers.
Hoo-wee.
0-4 since the James Harden trade. And man, if you look at the offensive output from these last few games, honestly, not even just that, the defense that's been being played, they have looked like one of the worst teams in basketball. And mind you, their starting lineup consists of Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. And they're 0-4. They just lost to the Grizzlies yesterday, who we've talked about how bad their start has been to the season. But Jay, is this a for real or is it a facade, the Los Angeles Clippers?
So, man, as much as I think it's easy to beat up on the Clippers right now, I'm going to say this is a facade. 4 games into this new kind of compilation of superstars they have, it's hard to put a whole lot of stock into 0-4. It's cute to be able to point the finger and say, James Harden on this team is 0-4, while Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers are practically, what are they? I think they're literally undefeated since the James
first
Harden
game,
trade,
since the first
right?
game. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's the first game of the season. They've been undefeated. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, that's right. They haven't lost a single game since the Celtics. So, very first game of the season. So,
the Bucks. It's the Bucks. Yeah.
The Bucks. Excuse me. Yeah, it was against Dame's 39, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Some crazy mess like that. So, so when you look at the season for them, obviously they've done all of that without James Harden. So you're looking at them now, they're 8-1 at the top of the Eastern Conference, while the LA Clippers, we're looking at them and saying you're 0-4 since making your season debut with the Clippers. And we don't know what direction this is supposed to head into. But I feel like the reason why we can say facade for the LA Clippers start so far with James Harden is because Tyronn Lue is one of the best adjustment-making coaches in the NBA. That's bar none. And I think that when you look at a team constructed like this, to expect them to fire on all cylinders out the gate with this many guys that need the ball in their hand on a regular basis, it kind of was going to be a lot to ask for to begin with. I think the other thing is they're going to have to experiment with lineups. This is a team that likes to play small ball, and with this trade, they actually got smaller, which seems kind of impossible for that to be a phrase, but it's true. By them taking in PJ Tucker and James Harden while trading 2 wings and Robert Covington and Nicholas Batum, you kind of took a size hit as well, which explains why they're one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the league. And one of the other things that's obviously not helping them either is they're turning the ball over a lot. I think they're like the 3rd worst team in the NBA in terms of turnovers as well. So if you're not creating extra possessions for yourself with offensive rebounds, and you're giving away possessions by turning the ball over a ton, which is probably all based on chemistry and size with the rebounding part, but chemistry in terms of the turnovers aspect, you're going to have a rough time. I think this team has more than enough talent and more than enough guys willing to sacrifice where things are going to turn around. We can get into kind of the weeds of it a little bit more in a sec, but I want to hear your thoughts because it's controversial 4 games in.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about this when the trade happened. They got rid of literally every single one of the 3-and-D players that are coming off the bench. Covington. They got rid of KJ Martin. They got rid of Nicholas Batum. And by the way, Nicholas Batum has been pretty solid for the 76ers, by the way. Shout out to Nick Batum. Why he in the fourth quarter. We know why he's in the fourth quarter. But to be honest, this Clippers team, I mean, I kind of have to go with Facade just because we know how the talent can play at the highest level on this team in terms of Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. But my only issue with this team is kind of how are they going to optimize this lineup to be at their best? Because like when we saw this trade happen, we even discussed it on the podcast. Will Russell Westbrook have to come off the bench for this to work? James Harden is used to being the lead ball handler. He just led the league in assists last season, so he is used to having that role. And when you have people at providing the output for him and Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, it should be easy pickings for him. These are some of the best one-on-one scorers, some of the best scorers in general in the game of basketball. But with the turnovers aspect, it's just too many guys who need the ball in their hand to succeed, trying to figure stuff out. Their offense, the fact that they scored 3 out of the 4 games, 101 points or less on the offensive end is very, very surprising. And for the team with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to have this bad of a defense, one, giving up 146 points to the Mavericks, and also giving just allowing a lot of points in general throughout the season, one of them being to the New York Knicks. It's very, very interesting start. I mean, I would say it's a Facade, like I said, just because there's just too much talent on this team. But you have to look at the other stuff around the team. Mason Plumlee's out for the next 1 to 2 months, and that's massive because that's going to be a huge load that's going to be put onto Ivica Zubac because they have no more size there. Who's going to be their backup 3? We've seen that some man Musa Diabate getting mad minutes just because they don't have really that much size at the wing position. So I don't know if it means maybe switching up the lineup, maybe working the free agency market or something like that, but this whole size thing that's been happening with the Clippers right now, it's just clearly not working. And the amount of guards they have trying to optimize all their minutes is just not really working out for them. And like you said, Ty Lue is one of the best adjusters in the game, but it's going to be tough with the type of players that he has at his disposal. And again, the amount of injuries that they had early on in the season so far.
I mean, let me ask you this question when it comes to the LA Clippers more than anything, right? I think their lineup questions are going to be the most important. But I think the biggest thing we have to ask ourselves is who do you think is going to have to be the person to sacrifice the most in order to optimize this team if the lineup were to stay as is? Because I feel like the guy who's probably inadvertently taken the biggest hit is the guy who's actually been the most verbal about being open to sacrifice, which is Paul George. Paul George, since the James Harden trade, has not performed relatively well. He's had 2 really big stinker games where I think he scored only single digits. It was 8 and
There's
7
a 10-point game.
The point.
There was an 8-point game against the Dallas Mavericks and 10 points against the Knicks.
So that's 2 performances that are very uncharacteristic for Paul George, who's a guy who came out and in the first 4 to 5 games of the season looked like he could have been making a real case for an all-NBA caliber year. And I'm not saying 10 games in that after 4 of them, he's lost that capability all of a sudden, but he's definitely regressed in terms of his individual performance in these last 4 games. If anybody's taken the biggest hit to James Harden's arrival, instead of it being Russell Westbrook, it seems like it's been Paul George. Do you think that makes sense for this team, or do you think that something else needs to happen in order to optimize this whole thing? Because I'm not really sure that they're willing to go to the rust on the bench thing, because I don't know.
I don't think that's the problem.
I don't necessarily. That's what I was about to say. I don't necessarily know if that's the issue. So I don't know if Russell Westbrook coming off the bench solves your problem in any way. But it also sounds like to many that that's the easiest early game solution.
We've been asking Westbrook to take the backseat for years now. I feel and the thing is he's been he's open to it. he's been like the perfect team player in terms of like trying to do what's best for the team. But when you look at like the start of the season, it's not been his fault. Paul George has been taking the backseat. We need to see him get him and Kawhi Leonard as much of the shot like attempts as much as possible. These are their two main guys, the two guys that they built this team around. And they've shown the last couple of years, when healthy, when together, that they could be an elite duo that can win the Clippers a lot of games. They're on the court together right now. They have to like really take advantage of this because you never know what the injuries that both these guys have, when that's going to strike. So if anyone that's going to take a backseat, funnily enough, it's going to have to be James Harden. He's going to have to. I don't know how that's going to how that's going to work. I know like in the first game of the season, I know we laughed this off that he needs to be put on the bench, but I just don't know, like, with the amount of ball handlers they have, because, again, Russell Westbrook has been playing his role relatively well this season, even in the arrival of James Harden. But James Harden has been a culprit to quite a bit of the turnovers. He's having 2.5 a game compared to his 4 assists per game, which is very unlike James Harden as well. So he's taking a step back, but also he needs to kind of, really have him play at his best. I really don't know, because that's the problem when they made this trade in general. They had a lot of ball handlers already. They had a lot of guys that played on the ball. So getting rid of all of your 3-and-D wings that played their role relatively well for another ball-dominant guard, even though he does have the star power, just takes away from the other guys. It's going to have to be him that kind of like sacrifices a bit more, plays a bit more off ball, because Westbrook as the lead guy has been solid so far. But I don't know how I'm trying to imagine in my head what is the best, what does this team look like at their best? And because we haven't seen it on the court yet, I can't imagine it.
I think it's funny that you bring up the James Harden coming off the bench thing, because it was actually the next place I was about to go. Is we laughed this off when the trade initially happened, because ESPN brought up the idea of, does James Harden come off the bench and Russell Westbrook starts? And it sounded silly when the conversation initially happened, because it's like, no, we know what the Clippers are going to do. They're going to start as many stars as possible, which means that Russ and James are going to start in the backcourt, and they're just going to try to make it work. But I think something else that's counterproductive to that is something that James Harden actually said in his own interview to open up, his debut with the LA Clippers, which is, on one end, he said he can fit next to any superstar in order to make a championship run. I agree with that. But something else that I also agree with is something that he said a little bit later on, or it might have been a little bit earlier to that previous statement in the same interview, which was that he is a system. And with him speaking to that, you have 3 other guys that have played relatively well next to each other already in Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook to this point, and were able to do well in that trifecta before you arrived. Is there a world where James Harden being the system can be much more dangerous as a off-the-bench threat? Again, you dude, first of all, we're definitely talking about an overqualified 6-man, right?
Yes.
Definitely overqualified.
Yes.
But at the same time, when we talk about play style and fit for this team, it seems as though Russell Westbrook fits best next to the 2 wing stars.
The starting unit.
It also seems as though James Harden, as an isolation solo scorer, not only is one of the best in the NBA, but in this case would be easily far and away the best 6-man in the entire league, bar none. You would literally kill people's second units by just putting him on the floor. I think a second unit with him and PJ Tucker, there could be some real influx there where I think they could see a big change from what we've seen over the last 4 games. It's a move we know isn't going to happen, but it's one that I feel like should get contemplated, which is something that I didn't believe when the trade first happened.
Yeah. And I mean, we've seen it with I'm not trying to compare James Harden to Lou Williams, but coming off the bench doesn't mean that you're not getting your 30-plus minutes a night. Williams won 6-man a year, averaging damn near 34 minutes a night. Yeah. So it's not like it's like anything out of the ordinary. Like if James Harden even comes off the bench, he's probably going to finish games for the Clippers because you want him on the court at those late times just to give yourself another scoring option late in games. So even if he comes off the bench, say just move Terrence Mann to starting lineup, Bones Highland, Norman Powell, one of those guys who can work a lot better off ball as a catch and shoot guy. Him coming off the bench could mean he could dominate second units, by the way, because James Harden's going to absolutely cook anyone who's on a second unit.
Right.
And he's still going to end games for the Clippers. So I don't think it's going to be they're not going to do it. That's the thing. The Clippers are too big for themselves. Steve Ballmer is not going to want to see James Harden, like a guy that he traded so many of his assets for, to come off the bench.
Right.
But it should be contemplated, and I think it is a potential possibility, and I think the Clippers could benefit from that, just like having like kind of staggering the minutes of these guys, knowing that they have so many ball handlers on the team. James Harden off the bench seems like a good idea, but is it going to happen in reality? Probably not. But it's something to definitely look at. But I think me and Jay are both in agreement here. It is the Clippers. They'll figure something out eventually. They're going to start winning games, and we're going to be like, oh, they're going to be a top 5 championship team again. But not right now. It's been looking really rough, really rough.
Yeah.
But moving on to another team in the Western Conference, though, who, firstly, they started off the season 0-3, and now have pulled up 6 straight wins, including a win against the defending champion Denver Nuggets last night. And no, I'm not kidding. We are talking about the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets are 6-3, sitting 4th in the Western Conference. Fred VanVleet has been solid this year. Dylan Brooks has been unbelievably efficient. 55, 53, and 84 and his shooting splits is absolutely insane. We were dissing Jalen Green, but he's starting to pick it up now. Jay, is this team for real or a facade?
I'm not going to lie. I hate to hate on the Rockets because I like that they're doing so well, but I'm going to call it facade. This early in the season, it's a little bit that I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around. Them being 3rd in opponents' points per game and being considered a top 5 defense in terms of defensive rating just doesn't feel real to me.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, but that just doesn't click. I like that Dylan Brooks is playing well. Shout out to him. He's kind of on a revenge tour of his own right now. And I think they have legitimate defensive options, Jabari Smith Jr. being one of them. But let's be honest, bro. At the same time, I just don't necessarily believe that this is a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense in the league.
That's insane to me. Seeing like a top 10 defense and top 10 Rocket offense next to the Houston Rockets name is insanity.
Yeah, it's just not clicking. And you got to also put into context, like Amen Thompson hasn't played much. Cam Whitmore, who they drafted late in the 20s, he hasn't played at all.
He's in the G League right now.
Yeah, so like a lot of their top end talent outside of like, Jalen Green, obviously Alperen Şengün, Jabari Smith, like a lot of their top end talent, or at least in terms of recent acquisitions, hasn't even played yet. We're basically really looking more so at the acquisitions of, like you said, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, to a lesser degree. Jeff Green has played relatively well, not much, but he's in spot minutes. I don't know, bro. It just feels if they weren't this good statistically, it would maybe be a little bit more realistic to me. But I can't sit here and say that the 6-3 Houston Rockets are going to legitimately be a top 10 offense, a top 10 defense for the entirety of the year. I just don't believe that, bro. We were just worried about Jalen Green like 2 episodes ago.
Right. Bro, I'm going to tell you the list of teams right now that are top 10 on defense and offense right now. The 76ers, the Boston Celtics, Nuggets, and the Houston damn Rockets. Like, it doesn't feel right. But I will say this. I'm going to say for real, and I'm not saying they're for real as a 4th seed, but I think they're going to be, like, in the play-in mix. Like, I think they're safely in the play-in mix. And here's why. I mentioned all those guys at the top, but the guy for me who has been the best player so far this year, and I'm so happy that this guy's playing extremely well, Alperen Şengün.
True. Şengün's been balling.
This guy has been the hub of their team in terms of being able to score. He's like leading the team in scoring at almost 20 points per game, 6 assists, 8 rebounds. This guy is basically a mini Jokic. And if you watch the Houston Rockets games, I mean, I wasn't planning to watch that many to begin with, but bro, this guy's like on the defensive end. He's trying to clamp up. This guy is like jumping the passing lanes. This guy's trying to run the fast break. And he said in the interview, like earlier on, the additions of Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, the hiring Ime Udoka, it brought like dogs out of them. It's like they feel like a more ferocious team at this point. So you could tell that it's like really like affecting these young guys. And people were saying that Jalen Green is going to be the top guy for this team. No, it's going to be Alp. Alp is going to be the main guy for this team going forward. You have Fred VanVleet and these other guys around him who are able to shoot from the perimeter. You have one of the best young talents here in the NBA who's probably going to be a multiple-time All-Star at the end of it. And if they continue to run the offense through them, let him be the hub of the whole team, from the center position, kind of acting as the Jokic for this team. I think there's just not a lot of teams that can stop that. There's not a lot of teams that can stop Jokic to begin with. If you can try to hone in on the skills for Alperen Şengün and let the other guys, do their thing around him, this offense is going to be deadly just because he has the court vision, he has the ability to score, he has the rebounding, and he could play some defense, like I mentioned. So I'm not going to say that they're going to be a top 4 team. That feels ridiculous. But to say that they're going to be comfortably a play-in team with the new culture shift by adding like all these new guys in, and the fact that these like young guys are really improving because of it, I really do think that this team is for real in that sense, where we're going to talk about them being potentially in maybe a low tier playoff seed.
I think I want to build off of what you said by kind of ending it with this. Like, this is what happens when you give a team structure. Like, this is hilarious that this happens again. I literally just had this entire soliloquy built up around the Sacramento Kings not even a year ago about what bringing competency to a roster can really provide for a team, right? And you listen to guys like John Wall, for example, or Eric Gordon talk about this Houston Rockets team in past years, and they talked about it like it was a frat house, like it was an AAU squad, right?
Yeah.
And now with the structure of bringing in Ime Udoka, bringing in veterans like Fred, like Dylan Brooks, like Jeff Green, who's coming off of a championship winning team. These are all guys that are bringing in not just an influx of talent, but an influx of experience, which is super important for a young team. And something I want to build off when you talk about Şengün. Ime Udoka empowering Şengün is something that I feel like all of us have always felt like was the next best step for the Houston Rockets. But shout out to Udoka for being willing to actually take that step. We all remember Jalen Green as the top 3 pick that he is. But at the end of the day, right, we have to look at what makes this team most optimal. Alperen Şengün not only is leading the team in points, he's second in the team's assists per game count up right now. He's second in the team on assists, leading the team in rebounds, and like you said, leading the team in points per game. By empowering Şengün, you give yourself a hub offensively that just makes everything so much easier to work around when you look at all the athletes that Houston has on their roster. It just really optimizes everything that they're trying to do, and it looks effective on the floor. I'm really excited for Alperen Şengün because, like you mentioned before, I think he has all-star capability. This is one of those seasons that I think is going to be the real stepping stone towards him actualizing that, though.
He's damn good, man. I mean, we've seen it even since his first season. Like, we've seen those glimpses, and we're just waiting because, like you mentioned, it was run like an AAU team. We had Kevin Porter Jr. We had Jalen Green chucking up shots over the last couple of years. Now really having him as the guy on the team. This is the first year where he feels like he's the number one, and he is taking full advantage of it. And the Rockets are winning. The Rockets are winning, which is something we weren't expecting this on. So good for them. Let's see if they're going to be able to continue this. Next team that we're going to talk about in terms of their for real facade, another West team, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who right now are 7-2. Wow. I mean, we were already kind of iffy about the over-unders of this team early on, before the season started. But man, this Timberwolves team right now playing very well. And they're looking like the Jazz of a couple years ago, where offense wasn't elite, but man, their defense has been absolutely stout now that Rudy Gobert is playing at his best. Jay, are the Timberwolves for real or are they facade?
I think this is going to be my first for real on the list. And I think it's because unlike the Houston Rockets, where I worry about whether or not the defense is real, Minnesota's defense looks real to me. And I think we've always felt like this is what it was supposed to look like.
Yes.
We've always spoken on the idea of Anthony Edwards having the build and the overall physicality paired with his athleticism to be an elite level defender. I think that shows on that side of the ball. We know where Rudy Gobert is as a rim protector and shot blocker, and he's kind of stepped more into that role this season than he was able to do last year.
He's been very, very good this year.
Really, really good, especially as an individual defender this year. He's got some pretty good statistics against some of the better players in the NBA. Jaden McDaniels, we already know how we feel about them. We've already spoken on this podcast plenty about how we think that he's an all-NBA caliber defender in terms of making all defensive teams down the line. And then also guys like Kyle Anderson and even Shake Milton to a lesser degree, right? This team is built to be able to guard at a high level. So the fact that they're number one in opponents' points per game and overall defensive rating as the top rated defense right now, I think they're all things that are realistic. Now, the funny part about this is that they're pretty much considered middle of the pack offensively. But the thing about that is Karl Anthony Towns hasn't played relatively well this year. Don't let the 19 points a game fool you. He has not played great so far this season in retrospect. 34% from three, 45% from the field. Yeah. He's not balling out on all-star cat level, which makes me believe that as much as the defense is real, there's still a level that this team can go up offensively, and that's what gives me a lot of optimism around it, because if the fact that Cat hasn't even hit his full stride yet leaves so much room for improvement.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, I think he's in the Pascal Siakam role for the Raptors, where he hasn't found his place in the system yet, even though it's kind of working. But I think if he can reach that level, then this team has really, really good potential to have a potential good run in the Western Conference. But why I think this team is for real, and I'm gonna keep it plain and simple, Anthony Edwards is gonna be one of the best players in the league going forward, man. We could see it coming, the last couple of seasons, but he is here. I think he's gonna finish top 5 in MVP voting this year, just because on the strength of his ability to play alone. 28 points per game, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. He is doing everything in the offensive end for this team. And when you think about the defensive end, he is putting a lot of effort there too. You could tell that he his talk about trying to be the best on both ends of the floor. He is really trying to showcase that in this season, especially the ability to get to the rim. One of my biggest problems with the Timberwolves in the past was there's too much there wasn't enough space for Anthony Edwards to attack the rim because of the amount of big guys they had. Well, it doesn't matter when Anthony Edwards can jump over all of them. So he's been absolutely phenomenal this year at that. The amount of posters he's had, the highlights, and the way that he's been winning on his back, he is going to be a bona fide superstar for years to come. And this guy is showing, yes, maybe this lineup isn't going to maybe flourish me to the best I could be in terms of having the amount of space that I need to be the best. But he is he sees this challenge and he's taking it head on, and he is fully becoming his true self here. It wasn't really you could see bits and pieces of him last year, especially with Gobert's injury, but now he has learned how to play with Gobert. Then this is scary, because if you can have the number one defense in the league, if you have that guy at the end of games where you can keep it close, you can give the ball to him and let him do his work, let him just absolutely take over. You have that in Anthony Edwards now, and he is the biggest reason. Even though with their number one defense, he's the reason why they're winning this many games, and they're currently on a 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, man. I mean, we have to praise Anthony Edwards a ton in terms of this start that they have so far. But another thing is, I hate to do this because I feel like we do this every single time we come off of FIBA or any type of USA Select team. But it happens every time. There's always at least one guy that shows back up from the FIBA tourney or shows back up from the Olympics, and it just reflects in their game that they clearly are coming out with a completely different energy. Not only is Anthony Edwards the leading scorer on this team, but he's leading the team in assists. And this is on the same team with Mike Conley, who's Mr. Dimers out here at the point guard position nowadays. He's one of those guys that's good at being able to facilitate an offense, not necessarily drive one. So the fact that Anthony Edwards is the guy leading this team in assists, it shows that after coming from a system playing around a bunch of superstars where he doesn't necessarily need to be this sole on ball guy, that it was able to open up and unlock his game as a passer. And I think that's always been something that Anthony Edwards had the ability to kind of gain some more steam on. It seems like he's slowly but surely growing into that. TV, it's funny you mentioned that idea of him getting better and only seeming to be a guy that is going to, further grow in this conversation of one of the best players in the league over time. I realized when I was going back through our list last week, Anthony Edwards' name didn't come up once in our top players in the next 5 years. I think both of us might end up regretting that one a little bit with the way he's playing so far, man. Because if this is where he is now, man, talk about, I mean, he's going to be on a mission. I didn't even realize this either, but this is also the 5 era of Anthony Edwards, if you remember. He changed numbers this offseason. I don't know if this is a Kobe-esque situation or not, but the start of the new 5 era for Anthony Edwards, off to a hot start.
It's an absolute fantastic start for Anthony Edwards in this new season, and a fantastic start for the Timberwolves. Let's see if they can keep it up. Like I said, there's some hints of that Utah Jazz team from a couple years ago with Rudy Gobert as their defensive anchor. Let's see if they're able to keep this up. Next team, we're finally moving on to the East. Let's talk about the Indiana Pacers. We talked about it a bit last week with the play of Miles Turner, but this Pacer team so far, third in the East, 6-4, ridiculous offense, man. This team's offense, they can score the basketball, but at the same time, they give up a crap ton of points as well. Jay, is the Indiana Pacers for real or facade?
I think this is for real. I think a Rick Carlisle-led Indiana Pacers team that's letting a guy in Tyrese Halliburton run the offense the way they're doing it, this is as realistic of a play style as it's going to get. This is kind of what we envision the Indiana Pacers to be, a high-octane, run-and-gun offense. We said this before the year started, bro. Yeah. Anyone that has Tyrese Halliburton, Obi Toppin, who hasn't even really caught his footing yet in Indiana, by the way, but Obi Toppin, Bruce Brown, Ben Mathurin, right? Miles Turner. You've got these athletic wings, a lot of guys that are open to running the floor, and the guy who can deliver the ball like Tyrese Halliburton, they're going to put up points in a hurry. We literally talked about them before the season started as a team that was like definitely high on the league pass rankings because of Tyrese Halliburton alone, with the fact that we knew he could drive offense. Well, 126 points per game on the season for this team. Perfect way to say that. They're also leading the league in offensive rating right now as the top rated team, and they're second in pace. All things that are quantified by Tyrese Halliburton playing at an extremely high level, leading this team. I think this is realistic because also 6-4, although it may be a little bit above whatever we consider from Indiana, I genuinely feel like this team is good enough to be like between 6 and 8 in the Eastern Conference. They are good enough, realistically, right? And I feel like the fall off of last year was just more so due to injury, and that still could be considered, but you can say that for all teams, right? But if we just look at this team in terms of just health alone, or in terms of play style alone, instead of considering health, I think that this team is playing exactly the way we think they're going to, if they're going to be viable for a full 82 games.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. They are for real. It really depends on like what you believe this start is to be. Do you think they're going to be a top 3 team in the East? I think that's a bit stretching it. But if it means like them being like almost a playoff lock there in the East, then I could say yes. Then this is like basically what we could expect from this team. It's kind of like the Kings last year. Remember, they had like an all-time great offense. I think they had like the highest offensive rating in NBA history by the end of the season. The Pacers are on that pace as well to kind of beat that already. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, what we see from the Pacers right now is exactly what we expected before the season. Now, did we think that Tyrese Halliburton is going to be like 25-12, 50-40-90 club? Maybe not. I mean, he is playing like an all-NBA level point guard right now. But at the same time, this play style that we see from the Pacers, we knew they were going to score a lot of points. The defense, on the other hand, it's probably going to stay there because besides Miles Turner, there's no one stopping a soul on that team.
Right.
There is no one. Sorry, Bruce Brown, if you have to freaking take care of the entire perimeter because there's no one defending on that Pacer team. But we see with the Kings last year, they won a bunch of games just playing that style. What was it? I think 48 wins on the season for the Kings or something like that. So if we could expect that from the Pacers 45 to 48 wins, then that's realistic. I think that this offense has shown that they can play, as long as Tyrese Halliburton is playing this high octane, in your face offense, then they're going to win a lot of games. You're not going to be able to stop this team, so there are very few teams that are going to be able to catch up. A la one of them being the 76ers who beat them the other night. But at the same time, this team is really damn good. We talked about Miles Turner earlier having a really good year at the center position. Yeah, this team is for real, man.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like to cap off my points with this too is like the biggest thing that I believe with the Indiana Pacers is as long as they stick to what their philosophy is, they are going to be effective on the basketball floor, right? They lead the team, they lead the league in points per game, but that's just one facet
Yes,
of their offense
exactly.
overall in terms of how productive they are. For example, shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. They are number one in assists per game at nearly 31 per game. They're one of the best teams in the NBA, top 5 in terms of taking care of the basketball, only 13 turnovers a game. That's 4th in the NBA, right? In
Yeah.
terms of things like free throw percentage, them being able to finish at the free throw line, despite the fact that they attempt the least amount, they knock them down when they get them. They're top 6 in free throw percentage. And then something else that I think is even more important too is they're top 6 in 3-point attempts, and they get the most attempts overall in terms of field goal attempts in the league at 95 a game. That high octane offense has them getting up shots in a hurry. They have guys like Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton shooting at a high clip from 3. And they're shooting. So with that being the case, they're shooting a lot of threes, they're taking a lot of shots, and they're super efficient across the board at doing it.
Very, very efficient.
Like, that's one of those things that I really enjoy about this team, is because it's easy to just point to, oh, well, they lead the league in points. No, they're one of the best passing teams in the league. They're one of the
Take care of the ball.
Take care of the ball relatively well. They one of the better teams in transition. They're one of the better efficiency teams in terms of being able to get easy baskets. Those are all things that drive good offense, not just can you score 120 plus a night, but it's how they're able to do it, right? Because if you're just a high volume 3-point shooting team and you hit a nice amount of them, I don't necessarily think you're an effective offense. You're just highly efficient at a skill that gives you one more point than normal. But I think in this case, this is a play style that is conducive to them being effective offensively, and it's translating long term instead of something that feels like just shooting luck in the early stages of the NBA season.
Yeah, 100%. 2 more stats before we end off with the Pacers. Number 2 in effective field goal percentage at 58%. Number 2 in true shooting percentage at 61%, basically. This team, when they score, they're going to be hitting them more than likely. One of the top in the league at that. So, yeah, this team is very good. Again, the defense has a lot to be desired, but if you're scoring that many points, there's not many teams that are going to be able to outscore you. So, they are for real. Next team we're going to be talking about, a team who's got off to a slow start this year, a team who had a pretty high over-under in wins. I think it was like 51.5. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 4-5 right now to start the season. They're number 10th in the East. Had to deal with a couple of injuries. I mean, Darius Garland's been in and out the lineup. Jared Allen just came back from injury. But Jay, I'm throwing this over to you. Are they for real or are they facade?
I'm going to say facade, and I feel like it's because of the fact that some of this stuff just doesn't feel like we've gotten a real sample size for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You mentioned beforehand Jared Allen just getting back, Darius Garland missing some time as well. The fact that Donovan Mitchell has had to kind of carry in this unrealistically sustainable way that I think throughout the NBA season won't be nearly as much of a burden on him. Something else too is that I like that Max Strus has been able to play relatively well, but he's shooting a little bit below what our expectations for him is as a high volume 3-point shooter. He's shooting like 34 or 30, like just barely under 35% from 3, while being in a position where he's shooting like 8 threes a game.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that I think will come more back to earth, because I feel like he's really like a 36% a game kind of guy, which means a lot more when you're taking 8 of them a game, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm probably wrong, but I still have to hold out hope that there's some deeper bag offensively for Evan Mobley. I have to believe it. Yeah. Until he drives me away from the bandwagon, I have to believe that there's another step offensively for Evan Mobley. And if that does happen, then I think realistically this team can be better. This was a team that before the Boston Celtics made their trade for Jrue Holiday and they acquired Kristaps Porzingis, or when the Bucks were able to get Damian Lillard, this was a team that I thought was going to have the best record in the NBA. I thought this was the team that had the best chance to definitely be the number 1 overall seed in the Eastern Conference, barring if they had the best record in the NBA or not. I think they were definitely going to have the best record in the East.
Yeah.
This is not the start that I expected from them, but I also think they've had a few hiccups in the beginning that make you at least a little less weary about the start when you consider the fact that they haven't been full strength.
Yeah, I mean, like them not being at full strength is very apparent in their offensive rating. They're in the bottom 6 right now. It's basically like Donovan Mitchell or bust right now as their offense. Yeah. Because yes, Karis LeVert has been playing solid. coming off the bench with 18 points per game. But yeah, they've just been missing a lot of Darius Garland. Jared Allen has finally come back into the lineup. And when you look at the rest of the lineup, besides Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, and again, to a certain extent, Karis LeVert, who's really creating their own offense here? There's no one really else on this team. So it's really heavily relied on those three guys to provide offense for them. And we talked about it before the season, man. A lot of them being really good had to be put on Evan Mobley to take that next step. And so far this year, he hasn't been really able to do that. He's been overshadowed by a lot of his people from his draft class, and Franz Wagner this year, Scotty Barnes, who we talked about on multiple occasions on this podcast, Cade Cunningham was having a good year. So he's kind of leveling out right now, but I'm in the same boat as you. I still believe that there's a next step that Evan Mobley could take on the offensive end. We just still have yet to see it. But as long as they can get healthy, we've seen what this team can do defensively, especially. They're still in the top half of defense, but if once Jared Allen starts finding his groove into the game again and becomes that defensive anchor that we know he could be, then that's going to continue to creep up throughout as the season goes on. But Donovan Mitchell is not slowing down in any of this. He's still one of the best one of the best two guards in the league. He's been playing like that all season long. I think as long as the other guys can catch up, I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers will still be a very good team, knowing that their star player is still being the star that we know he can be. It's just, I think we kind of underestimated the depth on this team, where one injury to the starting lineup could prove to be very, very detrimental to this team. So it's really important to keep these guys healthy. Yes, they helped themselves out by getting Max Strus, but look at the rest of this roster. You got Isaac Okoro, Georges Niang. You got a little bit of Amani Banks. You have Tristan Thompson off the bench. We see this man Craig Porter get some minutes throughout the year. It's not looking fantastic over there in terms of the depth for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But as long as these guys can stay healthy, the starting lineup, they can win a bunch of games. But I think the bench issues, they might have to start addressing that very soon.
I think the point that you make that's the most important when you come to the Cleveland Cavaliers is the fact that the bench does not necessarily make up for it. Not necessarily just them missing out for a starter, but them missing out on either Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland. When you miss out on either one of those two guys, you lose a lot of on-ball shot creation, a lot of self-shot creation. And honestly, you lose a lot of overall offensive shot creation in terms of the kind of attention they draw, which opens up free lanes and free open shots on the corners and things like that for other guys. So when you miss out on a Darius Garland in the earlier portion of the season, you can't necessarily plug and play a guy like Karis LeVert, for example, and just expect similar production. It's not the same kind of thing in terms of what they're able to do on the floor. And I think that's something else that's kind of important to factor in. I think their depth is good. I like the acquisition of Georges Niang. I like that they were able to pick up a guy like Max Strus that addresses their shooting issues. But it doesn't address still. Okay, so the biggest elephant in the room we talked about this offseason was the three position and their overall three-point shooting. But the overarching issue beyond positional acquisitions is the lack of self-shot creation outside of their two-star guards. Outside of them, offensively, this team is not that good at being able to create, and that explains why they're in the bottom third of the NBA in terms of offensive rating. Because if Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell aren't playing at a high level, who scores the basketball for this team? The easy answer is Karis LeVert, but does Karis LeVert carry efficient and effective offense? I don't think so.
No.
So it really changes the dynamic for them when they're missing one of those guys. They need both of those guys on the floor in order for them to be good at offense.
Yeah, I think you put it best. They have depth, but not in the places where in the guard positions where that's where their two best players are. If any of those guys go down, it's going to spell a lot of trouble for this Cleveland Cavalier team going forward. So, I mean, it's more of a wait and see. Darius Garland's finally getting back into the mix, and like I mentioned, Jared Allen is too. We've seen how good this team could be in the regular season last year when all those guys are healthy. Now that they're kind of getting healthy now, let's see if they're able to pick it back up and get back to that level that we know they could be from last season. But yeah, those are the 5 teams that we talked about. Let us know down below if you guys agree, disagree, whether any of these teams are for real or a facade. Moving on to the next topic, we are going to be heading for TV and J's. moment of the week. This is where we like to highlight stuff that we haven't talked about early on the podcast that we noticed throughout the week that we wanted to put on the show. So Jay, I'm going to throw it over to you. What is your moment of the week?
So one team that we didn't get to talk about much was the Philadelphia 76ers. I understand that we brought them up in passing when talking about the LA Clippers, but I cannot just glaze over the fact that Tyrese Maxey had 50 points the other night against the Indiana Pacers. I'm sorry, but him and Joel Embiid combining for 87 of the 76ers, 137 points last night against the Indiana Pacers. Insane stuff. I really want to continue to show credit to Tyrese Maxey specifically because Joel Embiid is going to get a lot of the MVP hype, right? I think he's already considered the most of the MVP power rankings as either a top 5 to top 6 guy overall amongst the rest of the typical superstars that get put in these conversations this early in the league. I mean, this early in the season, excuse me. But Tyrese Maxey has been on a real tear. Like, this is a guy who he's a budget baller right now. I think people don't realize this, but they did not, out of all the players from his draft class who were offered their rookie contract extensions before the due date, Tyrese Maxey was not. When he goes into, now he's not going to be an unrestricted free agent, obviously, this offseason, but when he goes to the free agency table to make his case for why he should get a big bag this summer, games like these are going to be the ones that come up when he's pleading his case. Tyrese Maxey playing at this level is what made the James Harden trade happen. I don't think it was that the Clippers came up with a better package. I don't think it's that they were able to get OKC to come tag in and come help with adding in some future draft picks. I think it was the fact that Tyrese Maxey's play on the floor has made it easier for the Philadelphia 76ers to be able to be an efficient team without necessarily having to worry about the backdrop of the James Harden dilemma on hanging around them. Now, shout out to Kelly Oubre as well, who faced a pretty jacked up situation where I think he was hit by a car or something the other day. So very unfortunate circumstance for him. Another super efficient budget baller for him. He's a guy that's averaging 18 to 20 points per game for the vet minimum, dude. Like, this team is bringing out the most out of their guys around Joel Embiid. I'm loving every second of it. You mentioned Nicholas Batum, who I mentioned was one of the best glue guys in the NBA when we had our topic on that. And another guy who could be a good candidate for that as well, Robert Covington, who's back in Philly and playing well too. This team is firing all cylinders. I'm giving a lot more credit to Tyrese Maxey than I think many are, because I think a lot of people point to what Joel Embiid has done. Tyrese Maxey, man, I want to make sure that he's continuing to get the love that he deserves, because 50 points, I don't care if it's Indiana, man. 50 points in a game where you are just full-on balling. Tyrese Maxey is a 6-foot guard and got 3 blocks last night. Like, come on, man. This dude is killing it. Shout out to Tyrese Maxey. Shout out to the Philadelphia 76ers, man. Post James Harden trade, before James Harden ever stepped foot in training camp / said he wasn't stepping foot in training camp, this team has just had themselves together. They've been balling, man. Shout out to the Sixers.
Shout out, 100% shout out to Tyrese Maxey. He's going to be an All-NBA guard this year. He is 100% going to be a % All-NBA guard. Only one game this season where he scored under 20 points. This guy's been efficient as all hell. This guy has been on, ever since the start of his career, on the backseat, to guys like Ben Simmons, James Harden, throughout his entire career, now getting the chance to be the second guy. He's getting those keys right now, and he is playing to the absolute max right now. Him and Joel Embiid, that pick and roll duo is absolutely lethal. He's amazing. He's gonna be he's gonna be one of the best guards for years to come. Man, this guy is just so fun to watch. And that 50-point explosion yesterday. By the way, Embiid scored 30-something points as well. So that combo was absolutely insane the other day. But yeah, him and Embiid together, both averaging nearly 30 points a game. They're not missing James Harden right now.
Not at all, bro.
They are not missing James Harden. And a big part of that is the emergence of Tyrese Maxey. So yeah, shout out to him for sure. My moment of the week, and I'm not sure, no, this is definitely going under the radar, but the Miami Heat have won 5 games in a row after that really, really tough start. And the biggest reason for that, freaking Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo is having himself a season. 23 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks, 50% from the field, 50% from 3, 80% from the free throw line. This guy is everywhere. And we were talking about him taking that next step offensively, like last year after being so timid there in the playoffs. No, he is taking those keys right now, and he is the biggest reason why the Miami Heat are even like floating above water. They're winning a lot of close games, mind you. They're not blowing anyone out, but having Bam Adebayo on the court, being one of the best guys in terms of switching on the basketball, being one of the best rim defenders, and now being the best scorer on their team so far this year, especially in the absence of Tyler Hero now, who's going to be missing the next couple of weeks. Bam Adebayo is that guy, and he's making a damn good case to be All NBA this year.
TV, I had a weird feeling that you were going to pick this team as part of your moment of the week. And I got to admit, I'm a little embarrassed because this was a team that you had some decent faith in when we were talking about our panic meter a couple of episodes ago. Yeah. And I was on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I had them at a hot 9, where I was kind of worried that this was going to be what the team looked like in terms of maybe they are as mid as we thought they were going to be in. Here they are. Tyler Hero's missed time. Jimmy Butler has missed time. Kyle Lowry has not played relatively well at all so far this season. And yet, right on schedule, like you mentioned beforehand, Bam Adebayo stepping up offensively, being able to carry that load on that side of the ball. We already know that he's a defensive disruptor at the 4 or 5 position. It's been really good to see that he play well. And they're doing it in a way that's very Miami Heat-like at the same time. It's one of those things where, for example, I bet against the Miami Heat last night because I thought, they're 2 offensive engines and Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero aren't going to play. It's Wemby. It's the Spurs, right? Wemby has dang near a triple-double by tacking in 7 assists, and it wasn't enough to take on the Miami Heat because Bam Adebayo was just that good. It's just the Heat culture kicking in, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Bam Adebayo, you got to show him a lot of love. And if he can continue to do this, I mean, again, like you said, they're winning the Heat way. They are grinding out these games as the Heat do. But if Bam Adebayo can do this, then I feel really confident in them being able to keep their head above water throughout the season. If he is playing at this level, got to show him some love, man. The Heat have been playing good, and he has been their best player by far this year. But yeah, those are our moments of the week. We are now moving on to the next topic. And it is going to be the draft, as you know. And Jay, this is a bit of a different draft. I sent this over, and my man Jay was laughing his ass off at this draft idea. So this is going to be a really fun one. We've talked about making the best teams possible with a lot of different parameters. But what about trying to make the most mid team possible? This team is probably 9th seeded in the play-in tournament, probably not making it in. Jay, in this draft, we are planning to build the perfect 41 and 41 team, the most mid team in the NBA. Now, that doesn't mean picking the worst players. It doesn't. It takes some talent to go 41 and 41. So you're gonna have to have some star players in there. You're gonna have to balance it out with some below-average starters. But we're gonna try to build the most 41 and 41 team ever. Jay, how do you feel about this draft idea?
This draft is hilarious, dude. I was crying when I saw this because I'm like, it's the perfect balance of picking the better NBA players in the league while not necessarily picking the worst, but guys that definitely are more like float above water. And that puts you in a situation where like the names that can come up in this draft, man, this is going to get so random.
Yeah, okay. You know how this draft goes. We're going to go serpentine style. Jay has the first pick. I get the next 2. He gets the next 2, and so on and so forth. So, Jay, I'm giving you the first overall pick. Go ahead, man. Try to build the most mid team in the NBA.
Man, well, I can't build the most mid team in the league without drafting the superstar from the most mid team in the league from last year. The kings of 41 of 41, the masters of mid, the Atlanta Hawks, right?
Yes.
Got to take Trae Young at point guard from the Atlanta Hawks, the team that could not seem to put a single winning streak together to save their life. They couldn't win 2 games in a row, but they couldn't lose 2 games in a row for most of last year. Give me Trae Young at the point guard position.
That is a really good one. Holy. This is going to be a funny ass draft. Trae Young at the one for you. That's really good. I'm going to pick my superstar now as well. And this is no shot to your Chicago Bulls, man. But I got to get the guy who's going to get buckets, but also is going to give it a lot of it back on the other end. Give me Zach LaVine to run my 2. In my 41 and 41 team, give me Zach LaVine. He might miss some games here and there too, which could help out, balancing it all out at the end of the day. But Zach LaVine's gonna give me near like 28 points per game, but he's also gonna give a lot of back at the other end. So give me Zach LaVine at my shooting guard position. Now, where do I go next for this team? You know who was another team that won 41 and 41 last year? My Toronto Raptors. And I'm going to give you a guy who's not going to dribble the ball whatsoever. He'll provide elite defense, which, again, you need some talent to win 41 and 41. But tell this man to dribble, and he's going to have 3 turnovers a game. Give me OG Anunoby. See, I'm not dissing their team. I'm also not dissing my team. We're going to have Zach LaVine and OG Anunoby in this lineup. He's going to hit some threes. He might have some off days, but he's one of the best defenders in the league. Give me OG Anunoby at my 3.
Oh my God. He's killing me with this, dude. All right. We got to get a little funny. I'm going to grab one of my mid guys now. At my 4 position, give me my boy Kelly Olynyk.
Oh, gosh.
Yes, sir. You want to talk about baby Jokic? Kelly Olynyk is that guy. You feel me? Definitely one of those. I'm going to put him at my 4.
That's your 4 as well. Jeez.
Yeah, let me put him at my 4. Stretch the floor a little bit. Just, casual stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I got to get the double baby Jokic combo. At my 5, give me Mason Plumlee. Yes, Sirski. We're going to have passing all over the front court. We're not going to know who's going to shoot the ball. We're going to have Mason Plumlee not having any regard for anybody else and dribbling the ball up the floor. Come on, man. Mason Plumlee at the 5. Go status.
You got to get more talent, bro. It's not like a 31 team than a 41 team.
We'll make up for it. We still got the 2 and the 3. We'll make up for it. But we got to put the mid somewhere, the front court. Oh, man, at least our guys could pass. I'm going to put it that way. Golly.
I'm going to go with my point guard position now. And I'm not dissing this guy. This guy, again, I'm not taking my idea for this team was I'm not going to build a bad team. I'm not really going to have like bad players at any of my positions. But the thing is, when you put them up against other teams in the league, there's going to be a lot of them are going to be better than this team for sure. That's my idea to try and get a 41-41. So when I go with my point guard position, I got to go with the Wizards point guard. Let me go with Tyus Jones. Again, he's not a bad player, but he's not also someone who's going to like put you over the top. He's going to be very mellow, like right in the middle there, like a bit of an above average point guard, but I think he's going to do a decent enough job running this team. Give me Tyus Jones at the 1. And at the center position, we have some defending on the perimeter. This guy's going to, if he's on the court, this is a big if. If he's on the court, he'll play well, but you can't really trust that too much. Give me Mitchell Robinson. He's not going to score much for you. But he will be a defensive disruptor. There's not going to be many points if outside of Zach LaVine right now. Mitchell Robinson's not going to help that out, so I think that's going to help out with my chances of going 41-41. Give me Mitchell Robinson at my center position.
That's a good one. I think I might have went a little scary amount of mid at my front court.
I was gonna say, I was like, I get the idea of your team, but I'm like, yo, if those guys want to bring that team down to more 35, bro.
Oh man. Okay. I think that might have been a little too steep on the mid, right? So actually, what I think we're gonna do here is I'm gonna go with I'm gonna have to boost his talent pretty heavy, but I'm still gonna go with a younger guy just to kind of keep things in track. Not necessarily a guy who can lead you to like a crazy above average squad, but somebody who can keep things above water, and make sure you're a playoff team. I'm gonna put Anthony Edwards at the 2 here.
Okay, I like that.
Especially this year's version of Anthony Edwards next to Trae Young. I think that could be really good because I don't think anybody outside of maybe Tyrese Halliburton is a better setup man than Trae Young, especially as an on-ball pick and roll guy. So let's put Anthony Edwards at the 2. And then
they're gonna have to. Their backcourt's gonna have to freaking make up for a lot with Mason Plumlee and Kelly Olynyk at your freaking front court.
Yeah. Oh man. And then the real question is about that 3 spot. That 3 spot is going to be huge because I feel like we need some defense bad. But at the same time, I have to grab my favorite mid player of all time. There's no way he doesn't make the podcast. TV, with my final pick, I'm taking Harrison Barnes.
You took my final guy. No.
I have to take my favorite mid player of all time.
No, you took my guy. He was going to run my.
Shout out to UNC, man.
Oh my gosh. He was supposed to run my 4. It was going to be perfect. No. He's going to sit there, give you a cool 12 points, and play average defense.
Oh my God.
How do I do this? I might go with a bit of a firecracker here for my power forward position. Someone who might be a big reason why I win games, but also might be a big reason why we lose games. I need someone with that sort of, kind of explosiveness where it's like you got to go one way or the other. I'm going to go Kyle Kuzma.
I knew it. I knew it.
I'm going to go with Kyle Kuzma. Him and Jordan Poole are having the time of their lives over there in Washington right now. Kyle Kuzma's having not a bad year, but scoring 23 points per game on a 2-7 team means really absolutely nothing at the end of the day. I'm going to have Kyle Kuzma winning there. Zach LaVine and Tyus Jones are going to try to run the offense, and Kyle Kuzma's going to freaking hijack all of that. Again, he might score 30 points in a big win for us, but he also is going to probably go, 10 points, 5 for 15 or whatever. So I'm gonna go with Kyle Kuzma to round out my team. Jay, in the battle of mid, let's see what lineup you got for me.
Oh man, so the lineup starts good and gets bad quick. So
this seems like a reckless, bro. Your team is gonna sound like some crazy wreck.
Oh my God. You want to talk about a team that's volatile? Listen to this. In the battle of mid, my 41-41 mid squad is gonna be Trae Young at the point guard position, Anthony Edwards at the 2 guard, Harrison Barnes at the 3, Kelly Olynyk at the 4, and Mason Plumlee at the 5. Whew, that team gets bad so fast. Oh my God.
This is what's gonna happen when you have like 2 Supermax guys on your team. You have to fill out the rest of your team with some.
I built the Lakers, bro. I'm trying to tell you. I built the backcourt Lakers, bro. I'm trying to tell you. It's just vibes around here. It's just all buckets. It's all buckets and a lot of empty seats. You heard? It's gonna be tough. Look,
man. That's
41 is maybe a good upside for this team. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh, that's great. That team's great. All right, throwing over to my team. I got Tyus Jones running the 1. I need to have some like elite scoring there, so I'm taking your boy Zach LaVine over there at the 2. OG Anunoby at the 3, the ultimate 3-and-D guy. Just tell this man to dribble. At the 4, give me Kyle Kuzma. He'll shoot us into games. He'll shoot us out of games. Perfect volatility for this team. And at the center position, let's see if he'll stay on the court. Probably not. Mitchell Robinson.
Bro. Perfect. Then you might have the best perfect balance of mid, though. I'm not gonna lie. I think I jumped off the deep end with Mason Plumlee. That's probably where this draft. It's probably where this draft kind of sold. It's when Mason Plumlee happened. I got a little too excited about that one. I had a Vika Zubac in the mind, but I was like, I went with the wrong LA Clippers center.
Yeah,
clearly.
Zubac would have been a really good one. Zubac would have been a very, very good choice. Oh man, there's a lot of good ones you could have chose here. Shout out some guys that you had I was thinking Denny Avdia.
I think there's a couple of I think Josh Hart is a good one.
Josh Hart is a good one, yeah.
Dylan Brooks is probably a good one.
Yeah, no.
KCP. KCP is another good one.
I was so close to choosing KCP.
KCP could have been like a mid guard, like GOAT out of all of the picks that we could have picked, honestly. Who's else? Maybe like Lugens Dort, maybe? Like he's another one. Bruce Brown. Yeah, there's like mid. Yeah, no disrespect, but like mid is one of those that's like kind of easy to pick when you're talking about just like the superstar play. Like the difference between the superstar player and the middle of the pack is significantly wide. But the guys amongst the middle of the pack is kind of just depending on what kind of flavor you want. You know what I mean? Like like Austin Reeves could be considered as mid, right? But then I think on the other end, depending on if you want defense. maybe Royce O'Neal is like a mid player that works for
exactly.
this type of, you know what I mean? So it kind of depends. But the other part of being 41 and 41, and I think we made this point at the beginning of the draft, is you still have to be good enough to still be a 41 win team. So you can't go on the deep end so bad that you're not good enough to truly be 500, but you can't go so far ahead that you're a team that, you know, is, you know, 45, 50 wins, you know? So there's a certain balance. That balance is tough. Like I said, I had a good top end and I had to flesh it out with, so I guess I started out bad and got good, huh? But like still.
I looked Harrison Barnes being your 5th pick was absolutely perfect. Just to squeeze them in at the 3 position, that was absolutely perfect. But yeah, let us know down below which team is more likely to go 41-41. That's what we're trying to figure out here. Let's see what you guys think down below. We're moving on to the final segment of the show, and we are doing the NBA quiz. Jay, have you heard of something called Game Score?
I have, but I won't say I'm the most familiar with it.
So so the Athletics' John Hollinger created this formula a couple years ago to kind of like give an ultimate score on someone's game. So this is how the formula is. Follow me here. Points. You have to add points, which is 0.4 minus field goal attempts minus. I don't know. It's just like some crazy formula, and you get basically this ultimate score for how great of a performance is. Basically, if you get something like a 40 game score or above, it's an outstanding performance. If you get 10, it's about an average performance, and you can just keep going down from that. That's basically the way they want to say game score. So, Jay, I'm gonna need you to name me the 10 best performances of the 10 best game scores since the year 2000. So there's been some crazy. There's been some. All you have to do is like basically, it's the craziest games in NBA history. The greatest individual performances. A lot of them have been put on this list as terms of like the highest game scores. So if you can name me like the best 10, I think this is very gettable. The best 10 since the year 2000. Let's see if you can do it.
I just have to name the player, or I have to name the actual. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Not the actual game. Yeah.
I was gonna say because then we was gonna be in trouble.
So yeah, since the year 2000, basically the best individual games, but we're ranking them by like how great their game score was.
So Devin Booker has to be here.
The 70-point game versus the Boston Celtics. That's the highest game score in NBA history and a loss. 54.5 in 2017. Yeah, versus the Boston Celtics.
Okay, so that's also a really great hint because if 70 points is a really high game score despite losing, that means a lot. So let's say like Dame should be here.
He is 3rd on this list since the year 2000. 57.6 when he freaking torched the Rockets last season.
Donovan Mitchell should be here.
Donovan Mitchell is higher than him at 60.8. This man had nearly a triple-double at 70 points. That's why his score was so freaking high. So, yeah, Donovan Mitchell versus your Chicago Bulls, mind you.
Yeah.
2023. Yeah, he is number 2 on this list.
Post 2000 that would still be like Kobe's Toronto
he's
game.
Number 1. He is number 1. 63.5 versus my Toronto Raptors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had an 81-point game. The second highest game score in NBA history next to Jordan's performance in 1990.
Dang. Okay. Let's think of some more like high volume scorer guys. So like James Harden should be here.
James Harden, 60-point triple-double. By the way, there's no repeats on this list. So if you say, James Harden, I think, had like 2 or 3 and then near the top. So I'm just going with his highest one. His highest one was the 60-point triple-double versus the Orlando Magic in 2018. He's number 4, 56.6.
Is Luka here yet?
Yep, that game versus the Knicks last year where he freaking did that impossible comeback. He had 60, 20, and 10. Versus the New York Knicks, 56.3. So he's number 5. I think you have everyone in the top. Yeah, you have everyone in the top 6. You're just missing the last 4.
Is like Russ's crazy game against the Denver Nuggets a couple years back against OKC when he was on OKC still like on here?
No, I think it just wasn't efficient enough.
Okay. You know what game I'm talking about though, right? The game, the game-winning buzzer beater or whatever.
Yeah, no, that was insane.
Yeah, that was the one that came to mind.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, the rest of the guys on this list are like some of the best players in the league. So yeah, I think you'll get these.
What about like somebody what about somebody not random but like maybe didn't do it all with scoring like is like AD here?
Anthony Davis versus the Detroit Pistons in 2016 as a member of the New Orleans Pelicans is number 8 on this list, 53.9. He had basically a 59 point and 20 rebound performance that year.
Jesus.
That was a crazy game, yeah.
I might just be showing love to him, but I also just am kind of curious. Is DeMarcus Cousins here?
DeMarcus Cousins isn't here. I swear some. No, he's not on this list anywhere, sadly. But yeah, he's not on the top 25 at least. He's not on the top 25.
Boogie used to be a demon though in terms of scoring at least scoring wise. Yeah, ain't nobody messing with that. Yeah. Trying to think of anybody else is like, okay, we gotta think of high volume guys. So what about like Kyrie?
Kyrie Irving in 2022. I don't know if you remember this game against the Orlando Magic. He scored basically 60 points in 35 minutes.
I do.
This was in the midst. That. This was like right in the midst of his like vaccine controversy or whatever, and he was only allowed to play like home games or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he scored 60 points in 35 minutes and just destroyed the Magic.
I actually remember that Orlando Magic game because I think RJ Hampton was on the team and he did a podcast with Cole Anthony and they talked about the most difficult players to guard, and Kyrie came up and I think it was that game that they were like referencing or whatever.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, you're missing number 6 and number 10. Again, to two of the best guys in the NBA who haven't been mentioned on this list yet.
Well, you say that, but it might be considered a stretch. But I drafted him. Is Trae Young here?
Trae Young is not here, no.
That's tough.
He had a game so he had the 19th on this. He was number 19 on this list. For people past 2000, he had a game versus the Portland Trailblazers where he just went absolutely off for like 56 and 14, but he didn't crack this list.
And you said there's only 2 left?
Yeah, there's 2 left.
So like Embiid and Jokic?
Jokic, no. Embiid was number 6. That he had a game in 2022 versus the Utah Jazz, 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 blocks, 54.4 game score. I'm surprised Jokic isn't on this list. Not gonna lie.
Me too. That's why I'm so stuck because I'm like, Jokic didn't make the. Okay.
Jokic is not. Wait, what? He's not in the top 50? That's crazy.
That's what I'm. Bro, what the heck? Have I said Kevin Durant yet?
No, Kevin Durant's not on this list.
Wow.
I don't see. I don't really see Kevin Durant on this list either. That's crazy. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've said LeBron yet.
Yeah, LeBron is number 10. Yeah, he's the final guy on this list.
Okay.
Okay, this is the thing. He had a game versus the Wizards where he went 57 points, 11 rebounds.
Shot.
It wasn't. I thought it was that game. It was a different game from that same season.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
so,
that's crazy.
That's what I thought. I'm like, if this was the bank shot game, then this is like one of the best performances of all time.
For real.
But yeah, 57, 11, 7, 3 blocks, 2 steals. He was absolutely insane. But the one with the game winner, or the game tire, I think it was like 3 weeks later, unfortunately.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. He wasn't one of the first guys that came up, but I mean, he definitely should be top 10. I'm still shook about the Jokic thing, though.
I'm going down this list. Apparently, his best game. This is where kind of like game scores, kind of like in terms of like trying to grade like the best individual performances. Jokic's highest is 48.7 in terms of game score in 2022 when he versed, I think, the Pelicans. In this game, he had, I'm trying to find the stats, 46, 12, 11, 3, and 4.
It's like, what are you supposed to do? Like at that rate, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Doesn't Jokic already have more triple doubles than LeBron James?
Yes, he does. He just broke that record like a couple last week or something. Yeah.
But the game score doesn't crack the top 50.
He was 46 all time. He has the 46 best one all time.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, like here's the problem.
Insane.
Fred VanVleet's 54-point game versus the Orlando Magic has a higher game score than that Jokic game.
Well, kids, if you learned anything from today's podcast, game score only matters but so much. So if you hear Nick Wright bring it up on First Things First, you probably shouldn't bring it up in your own personal conversations about basketball.
Hey, man, I mean, Jordan dominates the top 10 here. He has 2. He has the best one in game. I'm trying to remember what the Jordan was here, what his stat line was. This was a 1990 versus the, oh, yeah. Holy shit. I never realized how crazy this was. 69 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals in the block. What the hell, man?
Wow,
the highest game score in NBA history. That is insane. But yeah, that's our quiz, man. Let us know down below if you have some other ideas for a quiz, if you how you found this one, all that good stuff. But Jay, we've reached another end of a fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. What do you have to tell these people before we sign out?
Man, I'm enjoying this NBA season. It's crazy to think that we're only 3 weeks into the league year, but I mean, that just means there's so much more content to talk about. I'm excited because I feel like this year is starting to heat up, and the whole NBA Cup thing, NBA tournament, like I said last week, pretty hype so far. I'm feeling pretty good, and honestly, this past Friday has only kind of further, brought in the excitement. I'm really happy with the NBA season, but that means there's a lot of content coming.
Yeah, 100%. And it doesn't stop here this week. Like we mentioned, we're trying to hit you with 2 episodes a week. We're going to be give you guys another episode, which will be coming out on Thursday. So be on the lookout for that as well. So we're here giving you the content. We have some new content coming out today for the Hit Your Free Throws page as well. I'm going to be doing another vlog at another Raptor game tonight. So that's going to be another good one. And you might see some extra content from that game too. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, again, thank you guys for showing all your support. Make sure you follow us on any of the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram. Show love on the YouTube. Show love on the podcast. We really do appreciate all of you. Again, this is the end of another episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. This is TV signing out. That's Jay. Take it easy, guys. Peace.